Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. When a criminal commits a crime and he gets sent down to go to prison, his punishment, of course, should be his loss of freedom, not to be punished by living in inhumane conditions. Bar one or two prisoners who you wouldn't really mind seeing in inhumane conditions, but that's a different story on a different video. But for the vast proportion of them, you just want them locked up. That loss of freedom is their punishment. However, Barlinnie is 140 years old. It is not fit for purpose, and a recent inspection said that it would have failed the UN amendment on human rights. It is that bad. Indeed, it was designed for 897 prisoners, and there's currently over 1,400. It's falling apart at the seams, and the governor doesn't know what to do. There is a new prison on the way. It was due to open in 2025, but of course, this being built by the SNP means it's not now going to open until at least 2027, possibly later, because yet another fail where they keep having to overmanage, micromanage every aspect of every decision. And of course, it's coming in £300 million over budget. You wouldn't expect any less. So Michael Stoney says that if the new prison isn't open by 2027, then as Governor of Barlinnie, he won't be held responsible for any problems that are caused. He knows it's a bad place and it's only getting worse. It's yet another fail for the SNP. Here goes. So, Governor of Scotland's most notorious prison warns Barlinnie is close to catastrophic failure. Barlinnie Governor Michael Stoney warned that if the opening of HMP Glasgow was pushed back any further than 2027, it could lead to massive issues within his jail. And of course, it's not, even though it's due to open in 2025 and they say, oh, we'll push it back to 2027, I bet it's even beyond that, because the SNP feel necessary to involve themselves at every single decision-making process, because they cannot help themselves. They micromanage everything because they think they're too important for it not to go ahead without someone from the party issuing the decrees. They need to have really a political officer in every aspect of public and private life. Anyway, the Governor of Scotland's most notorious prison has offered a stark warning about how the jail faces a catastrophic failure if it is not replaced as soon as possible. HMP Barlinnie is the largest prison in the country, but it is 140 years old. It was ruled to be no longer fit for purpose back in 2020, with a new site set to open in 2025 to replace it. However, this deadline has now been pushed back to 2027, as I've mentioned. Because every time there's a decision made, the SNP feel necessary to jump in and say, oh, well, we think that's the wrong colour green. Let's have a slightly different green. And those bars, can we have them shinier? And the boots, can we have them a slightly different colour? And things like that. And this is the sort of thing they do. They micromanage down. Are you sure you're sourcing your screws from the correct supplier? Things like that. It is, when I say screws, I mean like metal bits that twist into things. I don't mean the officers. This date could be further delayed due to cost issues, with there being a £300 million overspend on the planned replacement called HMP Glasgow. Barlinnie Governor Michael Stoney has warned that the current jail can't last much longer and could lead to major issues if the 2027 date is not met. And I guarantee it won't be met, because they just, nothing ever does. Everything that they do, everything the SNP does, is late and overruns and overcosts and everything. They can do nothing. The best thing they can do is to actually walk away and say, look, we're not going to interfere. Here's the money, here's the plans, you go and build it, and we promise never to interfere again. But that doesn't happen, and that's why things are late and overrunning, and they change their minds 14 times, and it's just crazy. The prison is currently running at 140% capacity, with just under 1,400 prisoners incarcerated there, when it was originally designed for just 987. The state-of-the-art replacement is expected to include a reduction in the size of housing blocks from 30 to 20, and will see football pitches and ensuite cells introduced. And I don't have an objection to having an ensuite cell. You don't want to be shitting in a bucket. It's absolutely fine. I wouldn't do that. I'm not inhumane enough for most prisoners to want that. Mr. Stoney told the BBC the prison can't last much longer. The infrastructure fails constantly. He says at some point it may be a catastrophic failure, but by then it's far too late. We know that day is coming. A lot of my time is just trying to keep the prison functional. If dates like building and completion stretch further, then the risks get greater year on year. And they do. And I mean, you look at it, and here's a picture of it here. It just looks like a Victorian workhouse, doesn't it? And that's exactly what it is. It was a Victorian prison back in the days when prisoners were treated with utter contempt and they got all they deserved. They were literally locked in their cell more or less consistently, apart from when they were being beaten. Some of the punishments I think could come back, but you know, to lock them up like that, I think it is inhumane, because most of the prisoners aren't terrible people. They're bad people. They're bad. They're in the prison, but they're not evil. They're just lazy, greedy, stupid, thievy, that kind of thing. You do get a few of the bad ones, but you can when you build a new prison, put the good ones in the new prison, but put the evil monsters, leave the evil monsters there, let them stew in their own juices. An inspection of 2020 found that the overcrowding at the jail could mean it was in breach of the UN human rights agreements. Mr. Stoney also flagged issues with the prison's ability to prevent strong substances being smuggled in, keeping enemy prisoners separate, and of course for staff assaults. Again, as a prison officer, you don't go to work to be beaten. Nobody goes to work to be assaulted in their job. And I think prison officers are likewise. And we all know that within a prison, the prison officers are there basically as referees. They're not running the prison. The prisoners run the prison. It's always been this way. He claimed that the new premises could lead to a 20% reduction in reoffending due to increased rehabilitation services, which in itself is a good thing and would save a lot of money. He said, I've made bold inferences that we would reduce reoffending by the people that pass through our doors by about 20%. He says that's because if we are confident in our capacity and the professionalism of our staff and the care and compassion they have, they will make a huge difference if given the time. We have to be bold about it. We're getting a big investment, and we have to be bold by saying we'll give you a big return. And that's a good thing. And if he can stop people reoffending, if he can stop these people going in and out, bouncing in and out, reoffending all the time, it's a massive saving for both society and for the economy, because you're not constantly having to pay to keep these people in prison and go through all the courts as well. The whole court system gets backlogged up by recidivism. Anyway, the Scottish Conservative Shadow Justice Secretary Russell Findlay said for the Governor to issue such a stark warning of potential catastrophe at Scotland's largest prison should be a wake-up call for complacent SNP ministers. These extreme conditions and rampant substance abuse put staff in danger and make it virtually impossible to rehabilitate prisoners. And he's right. This comes 3 years after Her Majesty's Inspector of Prisons said Barlinnie was not fit for purpose, yet the replacement prison is already years overdue. HMP Greenock is also broken, which is entirely due to the gross mismanagement of SNP ministers who must produce an urgent and detailed plan to avert catastrophic failure. That is on the expectation that these SNP ministers know what they're doing and that they're intelligent enough to understand the implications. Neither of those things are possible because these people are morons. They have no idea what they are doing. Scott Lib Dems Justice Secretary Liam MacArthur said Scottish Liberal Democrats have been highlighting for years the serious problem of overcrowding across Scotland's prison estate. Michael Stoney's comments are a damning indictment of the failure to replace Scotland's largest prison within a reasonable timescale. And of course, yes, he is right. And it just finishes off with the other people sort of talking heads on this problem. But it is. This awful edifice is a testament to another failure by the SNP, and one that they're not even willing to face up to, acknowledge and correct. They keep saying, oh, we'll put money in, we'll do this. If they'd have left it alone, it would have been completed by now. But they can't leave it alone. They constantly interfere. They change plans. They change designs. They want something else added. They want something taken away. Every time they open their mouths, there's another delay and another cost implication. Why can't they just leave things alone? Anyway, I shall stop there and come up. Of course, the current Justice Minister is Angela Constance, a woman who Sturgeon demoted twice. So it makes you wonder why they're handing her such a brief like that. And of course, previously, when this prison was started, we all know who the Justice Secretary was then, don't we? Humza Yousaf. Take a bow. And so it's no surprise, really, that it is a whole sort of series of failures by a series of failures. The people sitting in that office have always been the failures within the SNP. People who aren't very good at anything. Oh, just give them justice. They can't screw that up anymore, any more than they've done anything else. And so, yeah, it's whoever is the Justice Minister is always the current loser of the day. And it just so happens that it's Angela Constance at the moment. So she's the one who's getting all the flack. Will she resign over the problem? No, of course not. They don't do that in the SNP. Will she be forced out? That's possible. But that's going to be up to the voters. And I think anyone in her constituency needs to take a look at what she's failed at consistently over the years, because she's never got anything right. And see, if there's a way of getting rid of her out of government, which there is. Vote for someone else. Stop voting SNP if you want a better Scotland. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you've seen here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, they're always going to be prisoners. We just have to make sure the prisons are big enough. Bye.